This is the story of Adam and Nick, two brothers who made the choice to trade in their successful careers at a major market dealer group to move halfway across the country to find meaning and purpose in their work with the Rohrman Automotive Group. They share the why behind their move and what sets the Rohrman Automotive Group apart from every other dealer group in the country. Buckle up and get ready for another unforgettable ride on the Driving Relationships podcast.
3, 2, 1.
Right on the set, pick 73.
All right. We got the brothers, Kalaga, here today.
The Bash brothers.
Nick and Adam. So, you know what else is super exciting about this episode is we have real car salesmen on the podcast.
First two real ones.
I feel like we've had too many vendors lately.
Yeah,
So.
Trey, fake car salesman, too many vendors. Let's get into the weeds and bring two salespeople right in here.
So, do you remember the first car that you sold? Adam, we'll start with you.
Oh, man, yeah. I remember the first car. It was, believe it or not, a Chevy Equinox.
That's a good first one.
Cream of the crop. No. He came out from we sold cars in Columbus, Ohio. That's where me and Nick sold cars. And so he came out from the country. It was perfect first customer. Yeah. Knew what he wanted. He was like, I'm just here to buy this Equinox, pay cash. Went out, opened the door. He took it for a spin. This is before I even knew like the full process. Mm-hmm. And came back in. And he was like, all right, we'll do it. And that was my first customer.
You're like, this is going to be the best job in the world.
I was like, is this his car sales? All right, we're good.
So don't say it, but do you remember his name? So that's a no. Do you remember the commission you made on it?
It was a Mini.
Oh, okay.
We're keeping the streak alive.
Okay.
He remembers.
Yeah. All right, so Nick, what about you? First car you ever sold?
It was I don't remember what year it was. It was an old Honda CRV, blue.
Same experience. Just crack the door, say hello, and you're done.
Yeah, I think I couldn't have stood in the way of her buying it. It was a mom and daughter, and it was the daughter's first car, and I was just I had shadowed a bunch of deals, obviously like you're supposed to. And that was my first customer, and she's like, I'm here for this CRV.
Yeah.
Showed it to her, and they they talked about it after I stepped away, and she bought it, and I was like, cool.
So not saying the customer's name, do you remember her name?
I don't. I have a picture.
Do you remember the commission?
I don't. No, I was on a different pay plan. I was on a flat.
Unbelievable.
So,
First one, he broke the streak for us.
I was on a
You were on the
training pay
intern,
plan.
intern pay plan. So.
Yes.
Well, tell us how you guys got started in the business, just in general.
I tell everybody this. So I was a computational math major in college and couldn't pass coding. And so I had to go into business.
Yeah, so car sales makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
so I had to go into business. And got out of all the business classes because of math and needed a business internship. Mm-hmm. My dad knew a dealer in Columbus, Ohio, and I was like, well, just have him come learn the car business for a summer, which was quote unquote come sell cars for 3 months.
Yeah, we've had some internships like that.
So and it worked out.
So as a computational math major, do you desk your deals in your head?
No.
Can you write a lease for me?
Let me give you CDK being down. Yeah, Zach comes to me for everything. I just write it all on paper.
Nick's even more valuable. Yeah. If we were on CDK, Nick, this is the first time that degree's coming in handy.
Yeah, there you go. Right, exactly.
Nice. So then you got your brother into it, of course.
Yes.
You pulled Adam in. What was that conversation like?
Well, it was me having some success in the business and him coming out of college not really knowing what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And he got into a remote customer service job that just kills drive. You know, I mean, he was kind of losing himself in terms of like schedule, and I'm always at home, and I was like, dude, the car business is fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. I mean, it's definitely something where you can take control of your own destiny. You know, and it's different every single day. So that's where I was like, he's a likable guy. I was like, just get into the business and see if it works.
Brotherly love.
I was
right there.
me, on the other hand, wanted to be an art major. And so naturally I went into business major because I realized that you need to make money somehow.
Yeah.
So, I was a business major. And so I was trying to use that degree, make my way after college. So I got a job that was kind of in the business industry. And like he said, it was just punching tickets and kind of the same monotonous stuff every day. And so it was a good opportunity for me to make some more money, and then just also have something new every day, because I'd wake up, go downstairs, open my computer. I mean, COVID, like he was saying, the times were weird and work was weird, and so just kind of killing my drive and motivation. And it's allowed me to kind of be on my feet, something new every day, new customer every day, new car every day. So really, that's kind of what's kept me in this business, is just realizing that there was something on the other side that actually is fun and engaging.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what year was this when you guys both started? You would have obviously, Nick started before.
2019.
And then you started 2020?
Right around
Summer
there.
of 2019
right after
was my
COVID?
internship.
You came
literally
in
right after COVID, yeah.
Oh, what a great time to start.
He didn't reap the blessings of.
So when we
COVID
talk
car
about all
sales.
these COVID salesmen,
Right.
they didn't know the car business before COVID. Here's one.
Yep. No, yeah, I caught the tail end of what color do you want? Oh, we only have one, so this is the one you're taking.
It was a rough way to come into the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one car, one color, and one option.
Yeah.
And this is your car as well.
Yeah.
So tell us then the story, then how you guys got here. Obviously, I know it. For viewers to understand it, where did this all come from? How did you guys make a move from Columbus, Ohio to the Rohrman organization in Lafayette, Indiana?
Yeah. Once again, Nick's kind of been like the catalyst for all my moves in the automotive business, but it's also been good just being a younger brother in general. He's, I've been able to kind of watch my siblings fail at things, succeed at things, and figure out, if I want to kind of follow in their footsteps.
Yeah.
And so far, Nick's story in the car business has been success. So I've tried to follow that, and he was working at one of the number one Honda dealerships, number one Acura dealerships in the area. So he was having success, and so then when he kind of took a career move to come up here, I'll let him talk about that. I was kind of just like, seems like it is a good opportunity, so I kind of wanted to follow that once again. But really, for me, the reason I came up here was I was in a very young dealership. You guys are way more established, and I think when it comes down to, wanting to stick somewhere or not stick somewhere, it just depends on if the mission of the dealership is meaningful or not meaningful. And I felt like I was in a dealership where our mission was just not as impactful as what I was hearing the Rohrmans were doing. I know that you guys, Rohrmans, have the name on the Purdue football stadium. So not only just in your dealership, but in the town, Rohrmans are well known.
So you just saw free tickets to football games.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. That was a long answer for free tickets.
Sports marketing.
I'm easing my way in. You're ruining my plan.
Yeah. I think I want to drill on that a little bit too, Adam, because I think your age demographic, this is the hardest part for us to figure out.
Right.
I mean, I'm not that much older than you, but they're like, I'm a millennial, I think, is what I am, and I don't know what you guys are, but it's all this like mission fit and this purpose. Like, what else did you find purpose in? I guess since working here, why is it different?
Right. I think one of the things I was thinking about, moving up here was just the impact that Rohrmans have, and I think one of the thoughts I was having just about culture in general with the dealerships is the impact that the top management has impacts the bottom as well. So it's almost like a top-down scenario. 100%. So, at my other dealership, I wasn't seeing a lot of upper management ownership, being impactful or, being an influence in the community as much as Rohrmans. And so I was really curious about that and intrigued about that because, like I said, the stadiums, I was driving just down the road the other day, I saw like a music institute that
Performing Arts Center,
Rohrman's name is on there. And so I'm just seeing that my work is being tied to something that's also impacting, others and not just our dealership, not just, the internal money, building the company. It's actually, improving lives elsewhere in the community. So I think to answer your question, people in my generation, we just want to know that our work is actually being impactful. And I think the way that we see that that's being, true is seeing how the ownership or the upper management is impacting others as well. Because now we know that our work is tied to something bigger than us. So I don't know if I've gone on a tangent or not, but
No, it makes total sense. I think we focus so much on the community, and too many times I think dealerships are looking at the community, meaning the customers that come in. And for us, it's like, how can we give in the way that we don't look back at when we've given?
Right.
So that when we give and we're exhausted and going, man, we've just give,
yeah.
we reap the benefits is what comes back as the reward. And that may be just people knowing our name.
Yeah.
It may not be buying a car. And I think because our business has been willing to put itself out there and not find a tangible ROI,
Right.
that it allows us to have these growth curves that people then start recognizing and raising their hand going, hey, how did you guys do this? And we're like, honestly, we don't know. Right. We just gave until we felt like we had hit that max point where we do need to be responsible and care about the business. And when we come back to business, the floodgates have opened and every single time. And it's been more customers, more opportunity, more families that know us.
Yep.
Just this morning, I was heading to the end of my driveway. They repaved or resealed the entire road, so we have to actually walk this last 3 days from the main street in. Yeah, it stinks, especially this morning raining. But literally, somebody stopped me. I've never met them. They're a neighbor, but way down on the other end, they stopped me and they said, hey, I have a question about my car. How do I do this? And I said, good morning, my name's Zach. I don't know who you are. They said, yeah, I know you're Zach. You live at the end of the road. And I'm like, how does this person know me? And I'm sure it's through a community event because I have never met this person.
Yeah.
I've never seen them. I didn't even know they drove a Toyota.
Yep.
But as I was literally walking, something I don't typically do, they saw me, sought me out.
Yep.
And obviously we're going to have a service appointment set up because of this. So just that crazy opportunity like you talked about. But Nick, for you, share a little bit about the recruitment because we did, obviously your brother came with you, which was a blessing and a half.
Yeah.
We recruited you. What did that look like?
Well, I was in Columbus, and there was a dealership without a Plinko board, and there was one with a Plinko board. So it was pretty easy.
One pretty easy choice.
It was pretty easy.
No, but in all reality, I mean, Adam said it was a huge Honda store. Obviously, we're not going to say the name, but like you were at a really big operation. So what did it take to get you here?
So I had seen some success there, and what it kind of turned into was what do I want to do next? I don't see myself selling cars forever. I see myself staying in the business forever. But I think that I had kind of mastered selling cars, and I was like, what do I want to do next? And to Adam's point, I was looking around my environment, and I really didn't want to grow within that environment. I think it was, hey, I think I see me doing things a little bit differently. And like he said, it's a top-down culture thing. Culture is 100% trickle-down.
Yeah.
And as these thoughts are going on, my dad, he's been in Christian higher education our entire life. So we've kind of gone around to where his schools are. They are, can I shout out Indiana Wesleyan
absolutely.
in Marion? Went to a golf outing of theirs and met Trey there. And it was only probably a 5-10 minute conversation. And then just kind of like, hey, my dad's like, he's in the business. I'm in the business. What do you do? What do you do? Came back to Columbus, and then it was months later that he reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to hop on a call and talk about like your future in the business? Little did he know, it's probably a God thing. Little did he know, I'm sitting there just like, I do not want to grow in this environment. I think I'm tapped. I'm doing really, really well, which is a weird feeling. I was doing really, really well and didn't want to keep moving up. So it was kind of like I kind of felt trapped. Hopped on a call with Trey, and I think Zach was on the first call. And this is very, very small detail. It probably doesn't mean anything, but I think Trey has like Amen Corner behind him.
Yeah.
And like once that popped up, I was like, oh, Trey's cool. I was like, this is gonna be cool.
He's got a poster that he bought for $49.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, this is cool. But it was the way they kind of talked. It was the way Trey and Zach talked in terms of where they wanted things to go. And that was literally all I had been thinking about is, well, where do I go? And not what am I doing? But getting here there's a huge social media push. That's definitely where the business is going, is technology. I love the involvement in social media here. And then I also love, obviously, the culture. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit later because it's a huge play.
Side note, one of my favorite all-time interviews was Nick, and we were doing a Zoom call or FaceTime or something.
Gosh, yeah.
He's sitting in a car because, he's working, of course, standard car salesman. And we're in mid of the interview, everything, and all of a sudden he's talking. You can tell the phone's here. And it's like, yeah, and we're like, Nick, what just happened? He's like, one of my fellow coworkers just walked by.
It was the owner.
Was it the owner?
Drove by.
I was like,
I
I've
can't
never
be on a
interviewed.
conversation in my car.
I've never interviewed someone who disappeared from the FaceTime call.
He's like, don't worry, I'm really well liked here. I just
I'll be great for your organization. Oh, wait, sorry, I got a duck. I got my warrant. No, it was too funny, but yeah, it was. So we had the opportunity of obviously sitting down with you and that Zoom call, FaceTime, whatever it was. And I think the first thing that we identified in it was you were looking at future, not today. And anytime that we hire people, we don't care what you've done in the past. I mean, if you said I sold cars and I'm successful, I'd say congratulations. Rohrman will be a different experience. And Adam, I think you can talk a little bit about first 30 days selling cars here and going, I think I probably should go back to Ohio. And then the transition of understanding this is a bigger conversation than sell cars. This is how do you be a great businessman? How do you learn how to, serve customers and not just sell cars. So for both you guys, what was the transition? I mean, now you're here. Welcome aboard. You drank the Kool-Aid, or you thought you did.
Yeah.
Day one, turn it loose, and how'd it go?
Well, I mean, for me, like you said, I came during the dead of winter. So, I mean, in
Great time.
In any dealership, it's going to be kind
January
of
and February car sales.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a slow start. But it kind of allowed me to kind of ease into things, which, was nice. And so I also had to learn a completely new product. I was selling GMCs, now I'm selling Toyota. So totally different reliability, totally different product. So just learning that, it was nice having that kind of slow month to kind of get up to speed with all the models. What are we talking about with hybrids? Never sold hybrids.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was nice there. But yeah, one thing I wanted to piggyback off of was what he was saying with social media and just the impact I was mentioning earlier that Rohrmans have had. I was at my dealership in Columbus, and I was seeing TikToks from this place called Rohrman Toyota about this $99 car for Black Friday.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it was crickets at our dealership for Black Friday. So our salesmen were literally seeing other salesmen at this other dealership having a great time, great culture, going viral, people camping out outside to try to buy a car. I mean, that wasn't even in my wildest dreams of what our dealership was doing. So it just goes to show you that we're not just reaching people in our community, we're reaching people and other salesmen from other states. So that was pretty sweet to just know that. I think when you think of culture, or when like coming from a business major trying to be in the corporate world at first, when you hear about culture, it's always these little 5-minute training videos that tell you basically to not do anything illegal, and that's like creating a good culture, or you're going to get written up, there's going to be a Title IX, things of this nature. So just don't do these things, and that's supposed to create like a good culture. Really, that's just creating a basically safe work environment. That's nothing extraordinary. And I think that was kind of what we were operating out of in our dealership, where it was like the culture should just be, not aggressive, not violent, and just kind of like, lay low. But what I was seeing with Rohrmans was that there was actually a real culture. You guys were making TikTok videos. People looked like they were having fun. Nick was dressed up as an Oompa Loompa, which
that was a hard sell day one. That was like week
it wasn't
one.
really a sell. It was like, this is your third day. You're wearing this, and I was like, where am I going to go? I have nobody in this town.
Was
so
that
I'm just
during
gonna...
the-
That is a good point. I mean, if you're going to have to wear that, no one knew who you were, so they'd just be like, that's an Oompa Loompa. Shout out, that's our trunk or treat event. He wasn't just wearing that inside the dealership.
It wasn't hazing or anything like that. But yeah, it just goes to show you that like there's different definitions of culture, and I think the framework that I was operating under was just be respectful, don't do anything illegal, try to do the right things with your paperwork and private information, which is all good. But I think you guys or us are actually trying to create a real culture, and it actually is a real fun culture, like he was saying with the golf. We've had our golf outing. Rohrmans were there. They were playing with us. They had a shootout at the end with their whole family. You'll see Trey walking in the showroom. He'll fist bump you. I mean, I think we both came from a generation of car ownership where it's very old school, very, strict. The culture, in a sense, was just fear. And so you had a lot of top producers like Nick, but they didn't feel valued. They didn't feel like they were part of anything bigger than themselves, which I think that we're starting to really enjoy here. So to answer your question about getting started, I was just realizing more and more each day, why you guys were going viral, or why Nick was taking the opportunity. I was like, okay, I took a risk, but it was worth it. And so that was kind of how my beginning started here, just kind of gauging the culture and everything.
Which is cool to hear. Nick, for you, share a little bit about the journey from sales to, hey, you're going to be a manager, and you've never done this before. And be vulnerable here if you want to be in this. Share the struggles of going from self-production to the way we operate. We don't have sales managers. So I hate the idea. It probably goes from scar tissue from when I sold cars of being like, hey, boss, I need numbers on it. And you'd be like, well, what kind of car is it? And I'd be like, a new car. You'd be like, oh, the new car manager's outside checking in a car. I'm like,
right.
That's great, used car manager. Just get me numbers on my new car. My customer's waiting. And they'd be like, well, that's his job. And I'm like, you guys don't care about selling a car. You care about your paycheck. So to give a little context, I scrapped any title of manager, and they are team leaders. So when you come in, it's still sales manager duties, but you're only paid off what your people do. And what a baptism by fire it is to go from self-production to my paycheck comes from 4 people. And what does that look like? How do you make that transition?
Yeah, it was not easy. Transparently, had a lot of difficult conversations with you. But I think Trey mentioned, I don't remember how Trey worded it in our interview, but he said, this will be a good opportunity for you to decide whether or not you want to lead a team or be the A player on a team. And those come with 2 different responsibilities, And really, nothing short of babysitting, it kind of felt like to start with, was just like, oh my word, it's like everybody's got questions. And then you kind of go back in your head like, well, how often was I asking questions when I was coming with just all my different needs as a salesperson? So kind of had to take a step back, but it's definitely a different style. We've talked about, when you're at the end of the month and you need 3 more cars out as a salesperson, what do you do? You grind. You come in on your off day. You stay from ding to dong and you try to get the cars out because it's all on you. And it's, well, what do you do when you have a team that needs to hit a goal? You can't just step in and do everything. I do love, actually, this is huge. This is a big part of why I love working for the Rohrmans is their emphasis on the DISC assessment. Because I think personally self-awareness has a lot to do with how you interact with people. We've done a lot of learning on that.
So walk us through that. Like, what is the DISC? Had you ever heard of it before? And then maybe if you want to share your profile, kind of what you've learned.
Yeah, so I, like a true D, so I really only know myself and how I operate, and I'm still trying to garner that because, or fully understand that. But it's how people, I guess, process their information and how they also relate to other people. But I'm a very dominant person. There's D, which is dominant, right? I is more like energetic and social, I believe. S is everybody wants to get along, making sure everybody gets along, and then C is calculated, right? I'm not a very cool, calm, collected, calculated person. But I might be managing one, and what does that look like? I think that, I think we may get into this with us being brothers, but I think
we have a perfect case right here.
Well, I think
Case study
I
here
think it
on
would be
Rohrman
very
Dealer
difficult.
Insider.
I think it would be very difficult for me to, and I'm obviously growing, but it would be difficult for me to manage somebody like Adam if he wasn't my brother. And I think the DISC assessment is interesting because I'm such a hard D personality that, but he's been with me my whole life. And so he knows exactly what I mean when I come off super abrupt. And he doesn't take it like anybody else with his personality type would be because he understands that.
He knows your heart behind your words.
Right. Does not give me a license to come off flagrantly or blunt, but it's definitely cool to have the investment from the Rohrmans to say, hey, be self-aware. This is what this looks like, and how can you relate to other people more effectively?
So you mentioned investment. Like, how did you learn about the DISC? How did you, because that's what I'm just curious about. Because, cool, they can give you an assessment, but, how did they present it to you?
Did I pilot it in the interview process? I think is what Trey said. Trey had me take one.
Yeah, we've been using it for 4 years, 5 years. And to be honest with you, we'd used it in the interview process, and then through COVID, we kind of went away from it just from the sense of, again, you weren't really hiring people during COVID because who was moving dealerships when it was, I got one, go buy it.
Right.
So we really didn't invest in it. So when we came back and you interviewed, it was kind of that recommitment where we had the training set to be coming a couple weeks or months after. So for you, where has our team learned it? Kind of to Austin's question.
Where's our team learned the DISC?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Where do you learn it?
Rohrman Recharge.
There we go.
That's
There's
what you
the plug we were looking for.
Okay.
That's what I'm wondering.
I was on the link that you sent me,
Adam,
and I
where
took
did
it.
our staff learn about DISC assessment?
There we go.
It's one thing to take the test, but you just sat there and I held back because I didn't want to interject.
He killed it.
You ran through the entire circle, so you obviously have a really good understanding of it.
And as a D personality, you should not be able to know anything else besides your personality. Because your personality would be one that just says, I know what a D is. The rest, they're all terrible.
That's true. That's actually in the DISC assessment, it lists that out.
But the fact that you were able to comes back to Adam's point. Rohrman Recharge, what was it?
Rohrman Recharge is a great event. We get all the dealerships that Rohrmans have. Is it just in the Indiana area in Lafayette?
Yeah.
They all come, Honda, Kia, Hyundai. We all meet up. We met at Purdue one time, then we were at another facility another time.
Yeah, quarterly.
But yeah, basically, it's obviously team bonding, Rohrman team, but then you get to learn. This is my first time learning about the DISC assessment. And, you've heard of the Enneagram, you've heard of, the INTJ, that whole
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, yeah. So this is kind of another way, but it helps us, like he was saying, we all have different personalities. I am a completely different personality type than him, and how do those clash or how do those work together in the work environment? So we kind of had some funny skits. There was people who represented the D's, the I's, the S's, the C's. And then we got into groups. It was pretty fun. On a piece of paper, there were scenarios, and basically we had to write down how we would have handled that, or what are some words that describe you. some of the D's don't get that good of descriptions.
And we don't care.
Yeah,
And we do not care.
it can be jerk, stuff like that, just because that's how they're coming off to someone who has my personality type, which is an S, and the S's come off to the D's as wimpy, maybe too emotional. And basically, the lesson of the story is that each one's going to have different personality types, but there's strengths and weaknesses to both. And I think that you can have a little bit of both. I think something that Nick's helped me with is if you're going to be in the car industry, if you're going to be dealing with vehicles that cost thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, at some point you're going to have to be a little bit of a D, no pun intended, to just, get the sale, close the deal, and, have a serious conversation. You can't just be totally emotional and totally just, falling apart.
Yeah, and I think the DISC assessment's been so great because there's obviously that, salesperson to customer relationship. And if you can understand the customers a little bit better, you kind of know how to talk to them. Yep. But I think for us, it's been, I've seen with employees, like you talked about managing your brother, I think Zach and I, the fact that we're doing this podcast like 4 years ago, I would have said there's no way. We
almost didn't work together.
We really struggled. We really struggled to work together, and it was because of our personalities. But I think when we crossed the bridge of, okay, I know what he's really good at. Now he knows what I'm really good at and how I'm thinking. Now you put it together and you're even more powerful together than you are separately. Right?
I've already had times where, because during this recharge event, there was a skit where, the C would have like a clipboard and a calculator. And you literally will get customers who will be walking out of their car with a binder and a manila folder and a clipboard. And you're like, oh, this is a C. And I've now changed my perspective. Like, I can identify customers like, oh, this is a C. He's going to want to know everything, everything about the car, what millimeter is this bolt. He just might be a little bit more calculated. But now I know how to approach that person because we've kind of been aware of now that there's multiple personality types.
Yeah, so I think you're selling to a D and a C is way more factual and upfront. Then the I and the S is going to be the more emotional, like you're going to sell it on a test drive to them, right? Give them that experience, make them laugh, make it be like, that's not going to work with a D or C.
Right.
The D is going to be like, shut up. And the C is going to be like, I don't care.
And it teaches you as a S salesman that you need to kind of change your approach, or it's like, what went wrong with that guy? It's like, well, you were super emotional and happy, but he was just trying to get to the cold hard facts. So it's kind of helped me. It's like, okay, I can either open that side of me or kind of, hide that side of me, just depending on, what the customer would benefit from most.
Yeah. It's really cool, and it's cool to hear you guys talk about that, because as a corporate team, that's what we want, right? To invest in people and not just creating the culture, but now you're actually learning stuff, and now you're an expert on this, right? You wouldn't have thought in a couple months like you'd be an expert on personality types and how to talk to them, but it's really cool. So
and that's interesting because it leans back to the comment I made earlier about the ROI of some of the stuff we do as Rohrman doesn't come hand in hand. Like this training that we went through, there was nothing sales related in there.
Right.
Like I sat through it for 2 days and literally sitting there, you're like, man, I hope this is being picked up and being applied because we could be doing objection training. We could be doing product knowledge. We could be doing lease training. Like we could be looking at trade appraisals and trade walks. And instead we're talking about personality types. And one of the games was, rolling dice, and your team had to agree whether to bank the number on the dice.
How your personality type
and it would
gambles.
be like D personalities. You would roll the dice 3 times, you'd be at 14, and D's would be like, roll it again, and C's would be like, we should have banked after the first one. And it was a great experience, though, for you guys to see it. So to hear you guys say, like, hey, we understand the charts, we walked you through it, we didn't prompt you on, do you know them? It was one of those moments where it's like, let's see if it worked. But the ROI now is on the fact that you're looking at that. I had a salesperson approach me after the training, was like, hey, I need to apologize to you. And I was like, why are you apologizing to me? He's like, well, I'm an S personality, and for the last year, you've been really pushing me to stop buying into everything the customer says. And you always tell me, hey, you need to understand their job is to sell you why they're not going to buy the car today. Your job is to figure out how to overcome that reason. And he goes, I feel like understanding that I'm an S personality, when someone says, I can't do this because, I come back and I tell you, and those are the notes we put in the deal and close it. And the reality is you may have been right. And as a D personality, I'm like, of course I was right. I told you this. That's why I'm on my
And you're nice. That's why you're apologizing.
Right. But in the reality of it, it was like, I've seen the shift in that individual where now he's coming back and being like, hey, I'm stuck and this is what I think is happening. I need you to come and TO the deal or get involved because I can feel my personality taking over. So cool to see you guys early in your career with Rohrman's identify that.
Yeah.
I think the one that I would ask you guys more of than anything is all these things are great on the surface, but how does it make your paycheck or your career better? Because when you say there's a culture, there's a environment, there's social media, there's all these things, any dealership could go and start doing this tomorrow.
Right.
But when you get here, what's the reaffirming, the confirmation of like, this place is going to be a place I can call home and build a career?
I'll start. So the big thing that I think is huge now with any workplace is everybody wants to drive a positive customer experience, right? Not everybody does it effectively, but a positive employee experience helps to drive that, right? And so I think the Rohrmans are doing an excellent job of that, but that's kind of what breeds the culture. So with the investment of like we haven't even scratched the surface of all the different things that they do, right? When we were touring the building with the Octagon training we do with just growing the staff, it's the more aware we are with a DISC assessment, self-aware, the more we are aware with our customers and our employees, makes a better work environment, makes a better employee experience, gives the customer a better experience. And so that's kind of intangible. I mean, when you're trying to breed a positive employee experience, there is an ROI in the customer experience. And I think it could be replicated, I guess, to an extent, but not very easily. No. I mean, it's if you have a long track record of employee experience, I know Trey talks about the simplest national holiday days that we do, grilled cheese day and stuff. Nobody's doing that. You know, nobody's doing that. And then putting it on social media, and it just multiplies exponentially. And that's the kind of stuff, the little things that you wouldn't think to do that make it fun.
What did you think of those national days when you first got here? Because I thought they were stupid, and now I love them.
I heard that. I heard you tell. And
I
Trey
did.
here to his face.
I
was like,
did.
wow,
I
you
told
said
him, I was like, dude, when you rolled those out, I thought
No
it
wonder
was the
Zach didn't
dumbest
like
thing.
working with you.
And then there was a moment for me outside of Kia. It was a National Eat Outside Day, and I'm at Kia, and they brought Chick-fil-A, and it's all at the table, and we're eating, and like I took a big selfie with everybody, and then I looked at it later that day, and like everybody's smiles on their face. I was like, well, there might be something here. Fast forward to today, my family celebrates every single one of them because they're on my work calendar. So like I come home, my wife has a package of Oreos, or we have burgers that night, or we have grilled cheese.
So you're telling me you get 2 national days?
Yeah, I get one at work, and I get one at home.
from a stupid idea, doubling down.
Yeah. It's like a selfie with Russ because it was National Selfie Day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known about it.
There you go.
Yeah,
But
that's cool. Yeah, that was one I thought was funny. I think I was there when it was like, hey, let's get a photo. And I was like, no photos.
Yeah.
Selfies only.
Gotta be a selfie.
All right, guys. So I want to kind of ask one more question here just to wrap everything up. So what would you say to somebody that is in your similar situation that feels like they're just kind of going through the paces at their dealer group? They don't have a ton of support. They don't see a lot of future. They don't see a lot of direction. What would you give for them as advice?
Yeah, I can speak a lot to that just coming from my dealership when Nick was already up here. I think I had to do some deep diving, and I think the advice that I would give is just kind of take an inventory of your dealership. Look around when you're at work. Kind of take a moment to yourself to just kind of think, am I motivated here? You know, is this a place where I actually feel purpose and motivation? Because I'll tell you, every day I clocked into that place, wasn't motivated for a good chunk at the very end. And I think here we do a really good job of maintaining a level of motivation and purpose between, you know, the challenges, maybe the bonus challenges we have. We have, as you said, Zach has a ton of great ideas. The Plinko board, we have events, we have things that we can market or we can tell customers about. It's something that we can get excited about. We can set appointments for. Stuff to look forward to. You're motivated, you have purpose. And I think to a lot of car dealers out there or a lot of salesmen, you know, just take a look around. I mean, there's not very many dealerships where you feel motivated. It's usually a grind. You see all these motivational things. You have speakers come to your dealership to tell you to do better, or you know have these morning meetings where they just tell you to do better, and it can be very deflating. And I think, you know, I was very deflated, and so just even being here the short time I've been here, we do a really good job of maintaining a level of motivation and purpose. And I think it really just comes down to, you know, what is your dealership doing to support you so that you can support your customers.
That's great.
And so that's one thing I've just noticed here at Rohrman's is it's an in and out type of scenario. You guys are pouring into us so that we can pour out to, you know, the customers.
It's a great point.
So Nick, you're the D personality, well documented.
Self-documented, self-aware.
Yeah. What would be your advice for that salesman that's stuck at their dealership or doesn't feel like they have a future there?
Yeah, get out. I think there are plenty of other dealers to work
There's
for.
the D personality.
Yeah.
Because just coming from somebody who felt stuck, didn't know where they were going, and didn't feel motivated, get out. I mean, go find somewhere where you are.
How long would you have stayed there and been miserable if Trey hadn't reached out to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Probably not much longer. I probably would have given it probably another 3-4 months, depending on how sales were going.
Yeah.
We were seeing, but not much longer.
So your advice would be take action, right?
Yeah.
What kind of action? What can they do?
Yeah. So me being a D personality can kind of come off a little bit abrupt, but it's a rip the Band-Aid off type situation. I had the opportunity a while ago to rappel off of a building, and it was very scary. And then I got to do it the next year, and I had already done it before, but I knew I was scared, and I was like, just back yourself over the ledge, just do it. And then once you're doing it, then once you're in the middle, once you're in the middle of it, then you're acting. You know what I mean? But I think the best condition for work is to act. I have that as my wallpaper on my phone. It's just stop thinking and just act. And then once you're in the middle of acting, that is the best condition to get it done. But it's not really the culture here. I didn't really have to learn. Zach kind of put it right in front of me when I was interviewing with him and Trey. It was, hey, where do you want to go and where do you see yourself going? I told him. And then when I showed up to interview in person and meet and see the store, which was awesome, they flipped it around. Trey flipped it around and said, hey, this is where we see you going, and this is how we're going to get you there with specific time frames and specific positions. And it's like, I think in the car business, it's like, hey, sell more cars and you'll go into finance. Do finance really well and you'll get promoted.
Yeah,
There's no, I mean, and then people are just kind of in this rat race, and maybe you're a middle of the pack player, and you're kind of like, what am I doing? And it's like, if you feel stuck, we do a really good job, and it's not just Zach. It's like I said, it's Trey. Trey's the director of Indiana. This is a top-down culture thing that affects all of our stores, and it's if I need to get with Trey, or if I need to get with my GM because I want to go somewhere, maybe I'm not capable.
Yeah.
But at least I know that I'm not hitting the scoreboard, but I can at least see what it takes, and they're committing to me, right, to at least give me a path to take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I would say, like, to anybody out there listening, if this hit a chord with you today, if you're interested in learning more, please reach out, send us a DM on the channel page. Also, please like and subscribe. We'll have a link down below with all the contact information. So, Nick and Adam, the brothers, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate the work that you do.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
The views and statements expressed on this podcast, as well as any other use of its content, exclusively represent the opinions and views of the Driving Relationships podcast and shall not be attributed to or construed as views or statements of any other affiliated entity.